Hi everyone. Please bear with me on this video. It might be a little awkward because this is brand new software I'm using to record it, and the software is really neat in that it allows me to shrink this video of me, and then I can start to add windows so we can actually talk about your assignments as we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a window in here so that you can see the D2L page. Okay, so here's our D2L page, our main page, and we're already looking at that very first module. I've been getting a lot of questions this semester about the research assignment, so I wanted to go ahead and look at that again. So if you have not downloaded this and printed it and kept it on file, you should do so. It'll open in PDF format, which I'm going to pull up for you so you can see that as well. Okay, there's the PDF document. That's the bottom of it. Now, I'm not going to read this to you word for word because I do expect you to read it, and one of the things I'm testing for in these assignments is that you clearly understand and read your assignments. It's a big part of your college experience, and that's one of the major goals of a composition class, English 1301, is to train you in some of the fundamentals of reading, writing, and research related to academic settings and professional settings. But mainly academic settings. So one of the things we need to make sure you can do is that you can read an assignment and completely understand it. Now, this is a semester-long assignment. You should have already started it. And the first step was selecting 3 short stories to read. And those are from the list down here. I want them to come from this list. And those are all in your textbook. You see the page numbers for them beside each of the stories. Now, once you have selected one of those 3 short stories and have read them, your next step, which should be completed by Monday, we're going to remove that window so you can go back to the D2L page. You see the D2L page here. Your next step is to go to the discussion board. Now, that's under content. Give it just a minute to load, and that is in the what is literature section here, and it's the story selection board you have right here. Okay, the story selection board you have right here. Now you're going to click on this and follow the instructions for it. For this discussion board, you will need to share your informal research about each story you have read for the research assignment. And there's multiple steps here. After reading the research assignment handout posted in the first module, you need to select 3 of the stories from the provided list. I already gave you those instructions. Read each story and then provide on here informal research about each story. So you need to show me on your post that you have read each story and that you've done some research related to it. Informal research means you've looked up maybe some just general blogs or reviews, or if there's a movie adaptation, and things that help you connect to the story and get to know the story a little better. In your discussion post, order the stories and your informal research from the most interesting to the least interesting. So the first thing I want on there is the story that you found most interesting to you and the details about that story. And then, of course, you would put the second story that you found most interesting and the story out of the 3 that you found least interesting on the bottom there. Conclude the post with why you should be allowed to make that short story the focus of your research this semester. And by that short story, what I'm referring to is the one you found the most interesting. So your goal here is in these discussions to show me that you really want to write about this one short story. Now, I know inevitably I'll get a few emails where people will ask me, well, what do I do if I'm not interested in any of those stories? Here's my answer to that. Get interested. There's not a lot of time here. You should have started on this the first week of the semester. The instructions were quite clear. And if you had started, then you have time to maybe look at some of those other stories. But if you haven't, you're pretty much out of time. So you're going to have to decide what is the best of the worst options, if that's the instance where none of the stories are interesting to you. Now, number 5 is the important part, because we haven't always had great experience with discussions so far. There have been a few students who actually didn't have things posted in response to their interview or introduction posts and discussion boards. So what I want to make sure is that you respond to everybody, that you have a conversation with everybody. So you're going to read the other students' posts and look for a student that has selected the same story as you. And then we have 2 parts to 6 here. If you find a story that is the same, if you find a student that has the same story as you, uh, as his or her top choice, engage in a debate with that student. I want you to start debating with that student. Show your willingness to pursue research of the story through provided specific facts and discoveries about the story. The student that provides the most effective argument will get their first choice story. So I'm not going to be grading these things just to see generic responses. I'm actually going to be looking at them to see who has the most effective argument. If no one has selected your story as their top choice, then find someone who shares a story on his or her list with one of the stories that are on your list, and engage in a conversation about the stories with those people. Why did you select the stories you did? Why did your peer? A good discussion is made of open-ended questions and research-based answers. So you want your questions to be open-ended. You want them to engage in conversation here. You want to encourage your peer to respond. And then you want your answers to actually be based on the readings themselves. Once this discussion board has been concluded uh, to my satisfaction, I will send out assignments for these stories. And so what I want to make very clear here is you may not end up with your first choice. No matter how good your conversation is, there may be somebody who has a more effective argument, more research. So you may actually end up with your second choice or third choice. However, it's always surprising to me with face-to-face classes. We do a similar activity where we do the discussion in class. Most students do end up with their first choice. Students have a tendency of actually working that out amongst themselves. In this way, I'm just going to be observing to see how this works. So your guidelines, of course, are be respectful, use specific examples from your reading, keep questions open-ended, make your answers well thought out, and make sure everyone is involved in the discussion. And then you get points based on that. And I will be strict with the points this time with the discussion board. And you see we already have a few students who have posted, so you want to make sure that you are discussing with them. So these 2 have posted and started a discussion. We want some more of you. Good work, Ashton and Katie. We want some more of you on there, okay? So get started on that. This closes on the 14th. So it's very important that you get this done because this will determine how we move forward. Now, that short story that you have assigned will also become the #1 resource for the paper, your first essay, which, as you see here, is going to be due on the 22nd, Define Literature essay. And there's some details about that here that I want you to be sure you look at and understand. So you also see that there's another discussion board about peer writing and peer review. And that's going to come about here pretty soon. You're going to upload to a discussion post a rough draft of your essay, and you need to start that pretty soon here. Notice it's open today, and base this outline on the outline lectures I provided for you. I don't think we're doing much with outlining in here. I'll see if I can get some more lectures for you to start working on that with. And you can cut and paste this outline to the discussion board, or you can attach it as a Word document using the Insert Stuff button on the text box. It is the one with the play, pause, stop, forward icons on it, typically the first one in the row. So you have all this other information on how to do that discussion board too. So we actually have 2 discussion boards going right now, although I realize this one many of you might not get to until the middle of the week. Remember that this is only going to be helpful to you if you do it early, considering this paper is due on the 22nd, which isn't that far away. That's less than 2 weeks, 12 days, which goes really fast. As you can see, we're already through our 3rd week of the semester. Okay, so I hope that this quick video catches you up on what's going on. You better understand the story selection process, how it relates to the research project. I will talk with you all more about the research journal assignment in another lecture briefly, and we will talk about that. Uh, we'll talk about that in another lecture video. Sorry, an email just popped up and I was reading it. And I'll give you some more details on that. Notice that it doesn't have a due date, so a lot of this is going to depend on how well your conversations for the discussion board go. Okay, I hope everything is going well. Please email me your questions. Remember that I typically do not answer emails after 5 p.m., although sometimes I have some free time and I can. So email me, but don't freak out if I don't get in touch with you before Monday at 8 a.m. I hope you all have a good